With the vast number of healers in Heroes of the Storm, there are so many good options to choose from depending on your playstyle and experience. But do you really want to just settle for a good choice when you could have the best? I'm confident to say that LiLi is not only one of the best, but I would say, in my opinion, the best healer in Heroes of the Storm. Don't believe me? Well, alright then, let's take a stroll, shall we? When it comes to playing an incredible healer, you've come to the right place. You see, LiLi is a Warcraft hero and focuses primarily on sustain healing with some utility and debuffs for your enemies. Now, before you jump in and play the most incredible healer in the game, we should probably talk about how she works and some of the different build orders that you can do. The greatest weakness to any hero is a lack of understanding their fundamentals. Don't worry though, Major Osun's got you. Alright, we're gonna dive in and learn the basics as well as touch on some more advanced information that will definitely send you on the path to playing the best LiLi games of your life. First things first, we gotta talk about basic abilities. LiLi's basic 3 abilities are great in combination with each other, but also have their own quirks that you kinda need to be aware of. LiLi's Q ability is Healing Brew. This is one of LiLi's main healing abilities. It has a cooldown of 4 seconds and heals the lowest ally hero within range for 175 health. Now, this is the important bit. The ability will always target the lowest health hero within range. You can tell which hero is targeted by the ring that appears around the hero's feet. This means you must be aware of your positioning and making sure you don't accidentally heal a hero that is currently safe and in no need of healing. Paying attention to that ring is vital. And the other vital thing is utilizing your W ability. LiLi's W ability is the Cloud Serpent. This ability allows you to summon a Cloud Serpent onto you or another ally. That Cloud Serpent then will automatically attack nearby enemies for 26 damage and then heal the ally for 20 health. This ability is super helpful for sustained healing. Typically, I cast this ability on my tanks or other frontliners, so they have just a little bit extra healing to stay in just a little bit extra longer. In the videos, you'll see my target of choice is typically Artanis for that very reason. Artanis' abilities already allow him to stay in for long periods of time, especially with his shielding. Add on to that the sustain healing that you can do with the Cloud Serpent, and Artanis will be in there for literal days. The last of the basic abilities is Blinding Wind. This is a good offensive ability which targets 2 enemies with a priority on heroes. It does 133 damage and then blinds heroes by 15%. Blinding basically makes it so that any basic attacks from the enemy hero will miss. And that makes LiLi really good against heroes who rely on basic attacks, like maybe Vala or Illidan. Another important ability of note is LiLi's trait, which is called Fast Feet. This ability activates anytime LiLi takes damage. It lasts for about 1 second, where LiLi gains 10% increased movement speed, and her ability cooldowns refresh 50% faster. Now, there's a lot of fancy numbers and things in there, but let's just focus on the important bits. 1. Use LiLi's Q ability to do a burst of healing on the lowest health hero within range. 2. Use LiLi's W ability to summon a Cloud Serpent, which does damage to enemy heroes and heals the target ally. 3. Use LiLi's E ability to blind and slow enemies to get allies out of safety or set them up for a kill. When playing a healer, it's always important to think about your positioning. So 4, always remember to keep an eye on the ring so that you know where your healing is going and position yourself to give the best healing to the hero that needs it the most. Also, learning to plan when you take damage to initiate your trait can mean the difference between a death and escaping with your life. All good? Make at least a little bit of sense? Perfect. Now let's look at her heroic abilities. Like other heroes, LiLi has 2 heroic abilities. Each is consistent with a different style of play. The first one is Jug of 1,000 Cups, and it's more focused on healing, while Water Dragon, the second ability, is focused more on damage and slowing enemy heroes. Each has their place, and as you will see later in the video, each has a lot of useful scenarios. First up, Jug of 1,000 Cups channels for 10 seconds and does 66 healing every 0.25 seconds. The caveat to this is that for every 0.25 seconds that this ability is active, it adds 2 seconds to the cooldown timer, up to 50 additional seconds. This is an extremely useful ability as it can mitigate a lot of incoming damage to keep your team topped off. Though you must, and I want to emphasize this, must use it early. Because it's a slower ability, you need to use it in preparation for incoming damage, not to replenish lost health. In my games, it was always more helpful to activate the ultimate earlier than I thought would be best, so I could mitigate as much incoming damage as possible. The second heroic is Water Dragon. This ability is channeled for 2 seconds, where you summon a giant dragon that targets the nearest enemy, dealing 300 damage and slows the target by 70% for 4 seconds. This also affects all nearby enemies within range of the target enemy. The cooldown for Water Dragon is about 50 seconds. Also, it's important to know that while you're channeling, you can move and use other abilities. This ability is extremely helpful in a couple of cases. I happened to use it more for when we were chasing and needed to slow down an enemy hero so our Tannis and Assassin characters could pick up a kill. I also picked it up during the matches we played double healer. It was super helpful because it allowed me to focus more on utility while my teammate focused on healing. And I have to say, my friend's Malfurion is very scary. Overall, LiLi's heroic abilities are super useful when used effectively. While they are practical, it's important to practice your timing and pinpoint the proper moment to unleash them for maximum effect. This may take a few tries to get the hang of. Just remember to use Jug of 1,000 Cups early. Remember, mitigate, don't replenish. I have tried out a couple of different builds for LiLi, ranging from some that I pulled from Icy Veins and a build that I got from MF Palette Time. Genuinely, if you're looking for builds to start learning characters, I cannot suggest Icy Veins enough. Not only does it have a nice layout, but it also has other great information for understanding the character more in depth. While I'm researching in preparation for these videos, I find Icy Veins to be an invaluable resource. Regardless, let's start with the build Icy Veins recommends. Healing Brew build. Full disclosure, this isn't my favorite build to use, but it is still a fantastic build. As you might have guessed, it focuses heavily on LiLi's Q ability to maximize the amount of healing brews you can utilize in a match, and later in the build, increase the number of allies you can heal at a time. The amount of burst healing is quite nice, and thanks to specific talents at levels 1 and 16, the cooldown is 1 second less for most of the game and then back to normal near the end. The first talent that you want to take is Free Drinks. This will help your mana management and lower the cooldown so that you can use Healing Brew more often. Then at level 4, you want to take Wind Serpent. You can play around with taking Surging Winds or Safety Sprint at level 4, but if you want to utilize your Cloud Serpent, I would just go with Wind Serpent. Wind Serpent is helpful not only for the increased attack speed of the Serpent, meaning more healing, but also with the movement buff, it can help you and your allies get out of a tight jam. At level 7, Icy Veins recommends taking the Good Stuff. This increases your healing over time and allows even more healing when your trait is active. At level 10, you gotta take Jug of 1,000 Cups. Except in the very specific case, which I'll talk about later. This, as I've explained previously, is just great for topping off your allies in a team fight. And then at level 13, you'll want to take Lightning Serpent, which makes Cloud Serpent attacks bounce to 2 other enemies. This deals more damage and grants more healing. At level 16, you'll get access to 2 for 1. This talent increases Healing Brew's cooldown by 1 second, but makes it so that you can heal 2 allies at once, which in theory should double your healing output. Then, at level 20, there are 2 Schools of Thought. For this build, Icy Veins recommends Jug of 1,000,000 Cups, which I agree with. I have come to love another level 20 talent, but we'll look at that in the other builds. Overall, this build is a standard LiLi build if I've ever seen one. It focuses on LiLi's primary healing ability and gives you a lot of wiggle room to heal for a ton of damage. Focusing on timing will be your best friend with this build. You need to make sure you're taking full advantage of healing Brew when your allies are less than 50% health, as that's just free healing. If your ally is under half health, then you should be casting your Q or it's on cooldown. You also need to keep an eye on your mana with this build. While the level 1 talent is helpful in mana management, I found myself running out of mana quite quickly when utilizing all of my abilities together. This isn't a bad thing, or to the detriment of the build by any case. It's just something to keep in mind as you're playing. If it is your first time playing LiLi, this is a solid build that will get you acquainted with LiLi's playstyle, and plus it's just a lot of fun. This second build I ran into while watching MF Pally-Time, and I have fallen in love with this build. This one is the Cloud Serpent build, and while Icy Veins has a build with the same name, I prefer Pally-Time's changes. At level 1, you want to take Serpent Sidekick. This talent will remove the mana cost for Cloud Serpent, and when Fast Feed is active, will refresh Cloud Serpent's cooldown 75% faster. Level 4, you're going to want Wind Serpent again. Like I said before, incredible tool for getting out of sticky situations and more healing. What could be better? At level 7, you'll want to go for Max Vortex. This will increase the number of enemies you can hit with Blinding Wind from 2 to 3. It also deals more damage if all enemies hit are heroes. There's also an argument to be made for Let's Go. This talent is helpful against roots and stuns because it makes a hero unstoppable for 1 second. I've never really been good at the timing personally, so I typically don't take it. At level 10, you want to go for Jug of 1,000 Cups. Level 13, you gotta take the Lightning Serpent, it's just so good. Then at level 16, you'll want to take Blessings of Yu'lon. This talent will increase the target's healing received by 10% and heals them for an added 0.5% of their maximum health for each attack. Now for level 20, you might be thinking, oh Jacob, we're gonna go for Jug of 1,000,000 Cups, right? Right, Jacob? Right? Here's the thing, okay? You can, but with such a heavy Cloud Serpent build, Pally-Time typically suggests going with Mistweaver. And I can't argue with that. Mistweaver is an activatable ability that heals all nearby allies for 149 health plus 4% per level. Now that's amazing, but the real kicker is that for every basic attack and Cloud Serpent attack, Mistweaver's 30-second cooldown gets reduced by 1 second each. Personally, I think the math is more in favor of having Mistweaver in team fights instead of Jug of 1,000,000 Cups. Plus, it can just be a helpful tool against burst damage. I really love it. It's really fun. This build is my favorite build to play. Not only do I get to play around with being more aggressive, but I also find a lot more comfort in my mana situation when playing this build. Having the mana cost stripped away from the Cloud Serpent is super helpful and gives you a lot more control over who you want to heal. This is also a situation where since it costs 0 mana to cast Cloud Serpent, then it should be on your front lines like all the time. It's free healing, so best to just have it out. My only warning is don't cast it when there are no enemies around, because then you can't take full advantage of the Cloud Serpent ability. Now, while both builds are amazing, I have one slight alteration to make if you want to give it a try at home. It's a little bit different and requires a little bit of planning your team comp, but shouldn't be too crazy of a change. And that, my friends, is picking up Water Dragon at level 10. Let me explain. I played a couple of games using these builds and going double healer in our comp to use the Water Dragon ultimate. And I will say, I had the time of my life. Now, I'm aware that this is not any new type of meta, but I had a lot of fun with this playstyle as well, and I just thought I would share with you. It allows me to play more aggressively, and you get more healing output having multiple healers. Battlemouth is probably my current favorite healer to double healer with, as his roots and stuns are super helpful in conjunction with my slows. If you wanted to tweak it even more, maybe look into switching out some talents with Blinding Wind talents. Might be fun, but just a heads up, I've not actually tried that yet. Alrighty, so now that we've got the build down, let's talk about what to do on the actual battleground. No matter the build you went with, I believe the most important thing to remember about LiLi is mitigate, not replenish. Now obviously there will be times when you should replenish your allies' HP, but when in a team fight, always focus on using your healing to mitigate incoming damage. Because LiLi's healing is more about sustaining, this can make her weaker against burst damage heroes. The difference between winning a team fight and losing it is having a mindset that you want to keep everyone as close to topped off as possible. Using your abilities quickly and early will help your team out a ton, and hopefully keep them from getting too low or at the very least, surviving. Another helpful thing when playing LiLi, if you can help it, is building a team comp with higher sustained characters. In pretty much all my videos you guys are seeing, I played with Artanis. They are, in my humble opinion, an incredibly skilled and amazing Artanis player, which really helps, but it also meshes well with LiLi's playstyle. Artanis' fast-paced movements and shielding helps mitigate incoming damage, allowing LiLi's healing to have more of an effect. Creating a team comp that can capitalize on LiLi's healing is important. Practicing your positioning, no matter what character you're playing, is always important. But when it comes to LiLi and her healing brew, there is an extra step you have to think about. Thankfully, with LiLi's fast feet trait, you can be a teensy bit more aggressive. But don't think you can run in like an Illidan, alright? She's still just a healer. All that to say, take chances, make some mistakes, and have fun. I stand by LiLi being one of the best healers in Heroes of the Storm. Her sustained healing mixed with her utility makes her an amazing all-around type of healer that makes her a legitimate threat in the Nexus. Also, the most important part, I just think she's fun to play, and ultimately, that's what matters most. She may not be the best healer for you, and that's okay. The whole reason I want to make this series is so that I can help people learn more about all the heroes, so that they can find out what they enjoy playing. From the bottom of my heart, I really hope you give LiLi a try. And if there are other heroes you want me to do a deep dive on specifically, let me know. My goal is to create a comprehensive playlist of all the different heroes. But as you might imagine, that's going to take a lot of time. So thank you for taking a stroll with me. Now do you believe me? If not, that's okay. I appreciate you hearing me out, and I hope you were able to learn some things. I know for sure I have, and I'm supposed to be the one making this guide. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the Nexus. Okay, bye!